Hello and good evening. I'm Soraya Mia and you're tuning into AWANI Tonight. Rumblings within Party Bangsa Malaysia. Larry Singh suspends SecGen and Info Chief. And Analyst urges ASEAN to include junta in discussions. That and more coming up. Datuk Larry Singh has frozen the membership of Party Bangsa Malaysia PBM's Secretary General Noor Hizwan Ahmad and Information Chief Zakaria Badul Hamid. He says this decision is due to a PBM Supreme Council meeting that was held on October 7th without his knowledge.
Singh said the meeting was conducted at the same time the federal budget was presented and that he was only informed of the outcome after it was held. He argued that the Supreme Council decided to appoint Datuk Zuraida Kamarudin as PBM President when he had yet to vacate the post. Hizwan and Zakaria's positions will be suspended until a disciplinary committee is set up to look into the matter after the elections. Hizwan previously announced that Zuraida had replaced Singh as the new President of PBM on October 8th. But Singh clarified yesterday that he was still PBM President and was the only one able to sign off a letter on the party's candidates for GE15. He denied resigning from his top post or relinquishing his membership.
Meanwhile, the Kuala Lumpur High Court dismissed former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Razak's challenge over the Prisons Department's refusal for him to attend Dewan Rakyat proceedings. Judge Datuk Ahmad Kamal Mat Shahid says the reliefs sought by Najib are now academic and have been superseded by the dissolution of Parliament.
He ruled that there was no live issue to be considered by the court as Najib was no longer a member of Parliament for Pekan. Unless and until the pardon is given or the conviction is quashed upon review, the High Court judge said there was no possibility Najib would become an MP again while simultaneously being a prisoner. This is because the law prohibits any convicts to contest in an election. However, Najib's lawyer Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah said they will be appealing against the court's decision. Najib is currently serving 12 years in jail after the federal court upheld his sentence in the SRC international case.
Pejuang has announced its first batch of 8 candidates and the constituencies they will be contesting in for the 15th general elections. Among them is party chairman Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, who will defend his parliamentary seat in Langkawi. Also defending his seat is Datuk Sri Mukris Mahathir for Jelun. Other candidates include incumbent Datuk Wira Amiruddin Hamzah for Kubang Pasu, Pejuanita Chief Datin Paduka Cik Asmah Ibrahim in Sepang, Mayor Nur Haidir Suhaimi in Tapah, Batangkali Assembly Person Harumaini Omar in Hulu Selangor, and Jeram Assembly Person Muhammad Syed Rusli in Kuala Selangor, as well as Khairuddin Abu Hassan in Titiwangsa. UMNO veteran Tan Sri Shahril Abdul Samad said he will not be contesting in the 15th general election. The former Johor Bahru MP said his focus now is to clear his name through the court processes first.
Shahir, who was Johor Bahru MP for 3 terms from 2004 to 2018, said that it's important for him to defend his integrity and good name in court and that it would be unfair to the Johor Bahru voters to clean his name for him. He said although he is not contesting, he will still be leading the Johor Bahru BN machinery to ensure the victory of its candidates in the election. The former Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister has been charged with money laundering by not reporting his real income in the income tax return form for the assessment year 2013, a violation of Section 113(1)A of the Income Tax Act 1967. The offence is related to the 1 million ringgit he purportedly received from former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Razak in 2013.
In the efforts to reach Undi 100%, it is important for not only local voters to exercise their right, but those who are currently registered as postal voters as well. We speak to Global Bersih Secretary General Nirmala Devi Wingater about appealing to every overseas voter to vote, no matter how complicated the process is.
Overseas Malaysians are very connected to what's happening in the country and the changes in their country. But more important, the policies and the laws that is being created or that's being passed in the country do affect us. One of the major examples is the rights of Malaysian mothers and the children born overseas. So that's a perfect example. We've had positive and negative and all these changes, and whatever these policies that are made there is important for our lives. So we are not disconnected from Malaysia at all. And another point is also the brain drain. If overseas Malaysians have a say by voting and making a change and voting for leaders that's going to stand up for their rights, the chances of overseas Malaysians coming back and to have a reverse brain drain is really high. So we always say jauh di mata, dekat di hati. So we are still very connected to the country, and policies in the country do affect us.
In the lead up to nomination day, the Pantau PRU 15 initiative is turning up the pressure on political parties to ensure 30% of candidates fielded are women. How do we put gender equality on the ballot for GE15? Find out tonight on Consider This. Ahead of the polls, we will be featuring Question of the Day to get your thoughts on the political scene in Malaysia. Today, share with us, would you prefer to see fresh faces or familiar faces as candidates? To tell us your answers, all you have to do is scan the QR code on the screen. For more, head over to undi.astroawani.com to answer these daily questions. In other news, the Health Ministry will temporarily halt its flying doctor services in Perak. Caretaker Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said this follows yesterday's helicopter crash in Brinchang, Cameron Highlands, which injured several of the ministry's medical staff.
Khairi said Perak only had one such flight service. The closed route would be the one between Gua Musang and Ulu Kinta. The service will be suspended until MOH gets further assurances with the helicopter charter company involved. Meanwhile, other flying doctor services in the country remain unaffected. Khairi said initial investigations showed the helicopter crash in the Bukit Kinta Forest Reserve due to adverse weather conditions and not because of a faulty aircraft. All 6 people on board survived the crash and are undergoing treatment at the hospital.
Time for a quick break. We'll be right back.
Pandas. Pandas love to chill out, sleep, and eat. Wait, did we eat all the bamboos already? They are always up for a challenge. Ouch, ooh. Pandas, just living out their lives.
Papa. Panda?
Dalam membawa setiap berita, semestinya yang penting adalah untuk membawa pelbagai sudut sesuatu cerita itu.
Yang pastinya suara akar umbi, terutamanya suara rakyat, harus diberi ruang. Kami di Astro AWANI sentiasa komited dan juga bertanggungjawab dalam menyampaikan berita yang seimbang, konstruktif, terutamanya kepada seluruh rakyat Malaysia.
Saya Jasmine Abu Bakar.
Dan saya Ihsan Yahya.
Pastikan AWANI 745 dan Sinar AWANI menjadi pilihan utama anda.
Welcome back. GE15 this year will go ahead without the political financing bill that has been much discussed leading up to the elections. C4 Executive Director Cynthia Gabriel explained how this was a missed opportunity to really reform the election process.
We now have an elections called again without a political financing act, and an elections which is called again knowing that money is flowing through the political system without any regulations. And without it being regulated, we are going to get another 1MDB type scenario, because we will remember that Prime Minister Najib at that time, when he was Prime Minister and when he was found out on 1MDB, he actually admitted that more than $50 million was actually spent from 1MDB money on his political party. And that is just one source of funding for, that was GE13. Now we are at GE15, and we still don't have a regulation on political finance. And it's extremely worrying.
Alongside a political financing bill, Cynthia also emphasized the importance of practicing transparency in governance.
Without an access to information law, we are going to actually see campaign finance even more abused during this GE15. There is no way the public can actually look at scrutinizing candidates and politicians that have tons of money to throw. And now with the Banjir, Musim Banjir, I think there was one thing that I wanted to say. There'll be a lot of money thrown in to ferry voters to actually get them out of floods and all that. And it's only the big political parties, the ruling ones in particular, that actually have so much resources that they can actually get such advantage. But in the midst of this, we're talking about a complete lack of governance where we have so much money being thrown into deforestation, into clearing up forests, into also inviting foreign plastics and bringing garbage into our country, all for revenue. And for revenue that is unaccountable, revenue that is actually not built on public policy which can be scrutinized. This is the time that we voters and we Malaysians have to actually remind the candidates and the politicians that will be elected eventually that they have a huge responsibility towards our livelihoods and our rights, and that if they actually can't deliver on their promises, they will not get our vote.
On to international news. ASEAN foreign ministers kick off discussions on the Myanmar crisis in Indonesian capital Jakarta today without any Myanmar representative. Foreign policy analyst Zokri Ijaz says discussions will not be fruitful unless the junta is brought into the discussion, as he urges ASEAN to begin with building trust.
We have to start building the trust. At the moment, there is no communication. The junta is actually avoiding all of the special envoys and foreign missions into the country. We at ASEAN level are also not inviting them onto the negotiation table. And without having these two dialogue, there is no trust to be given from both sides. And this will just be on a status quo if something not to be worked on this. If the 5-point consensus has met into its halt or a pausing stage at the moment, perhaps we should go into what actually should be the priority at the moment. I think the priority at the moment is actually to establish humanitarian aid, sending in rescues and saving missions, medical assistance to those who have been affected by the incidents. And if we can establish that based on humanitarian basis, not in terms of political, not in terms of any kinds of communications, I think that is simply moving forward for the ASEAN as well as for the people in Myanmar. And that will also be a two-pronged benefit in the sense that it can also slowly gain the trust of the junta towards ASEAN, as well as the ASEAN towards Myanmar.
Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern visited scientists at New Zealand's Scott Base in Antarctica today. She highlighted climate change challenges, her country's commitment to the continent, and the need for regional cooperation.
Scott Base, 65 years. It has stood here on these grounds and operated out of many of these buildings. They are, in some cases, coming to the end of their life, and with that brings real health and safety issues and challenges. That's meant in the course of our time in government that the proposal for the redevelopment of Scott Base has come to us and crossed our desks. And we've made the commitment because New Zealand's connection with Antarctica is deep and long-standing.
Her visit comes as New Zealand committed to allocating $200.7 million to rebuild the base to support its presence for the next 50 years. Ardern arrived yesterday for a 72-hour trip. Before we end the show tonight, we want to hear your thoughts on GE15. Here is the question of the day displayed on the screen. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the bottom left of your screen to share your thoughts. The results of these questionnaires will be revealed daily. The polls are nearing, but be sure to exercise your vote on November 19th. I'm Soraya Mia. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.